Guess what will never be a poster? Nikola Jokic holding the moon saying space is the final frontier. He doesn't look cool, and his play is not cool. Nikola Jokic hoists threes, looking like a guy in rec league from beyond the arc, chucking it up there, goes in. Jokic kind of runs with a bit of a hunch on his shoulders, lumbers down floor. He doesn't have cool sneakers. He doesn't have a cool haircut. He doesn't look like Ja Morant. There's no color in his hair. There's no flashiness or flamboyance to him. There's no personality, and that has hindered his reputation. And finally, we got past that because he won. And we can finally look past style when you do win. But it hurt Tim Duncan for years. There was nothing fun about watching Tim Duncan, the big fundamental. So Tim Duncan might have 5 championships, but how often do you hear Tim Duncan in the conversation of the top 10 players of all time or the top 5 players of all time? But if Tim Duncan played like Michael Jordan or Kobe and had 5 championships and was the centerpiece of 5 championship teams, you don't think you would get more love? Kobe looked freaking cool. Kobe mimicked Michael. Kobe was handsome. Kobe was dynamic. Kobe's game was above the rim. We fall in love with these things. Kobe's not one of the 5 greatest players of all time. By no metric is he one of the 5 greatest players of all time. But there's plenty of people that would put him there because, boy, did he look cool. And he did. That Lakers jersey, the way he flew through the air, his highlights, he looked cool. Jokic has always been hindered by that. No part of his game looks cool, and he doesn't look cool. But he's amazing. He's amazing, and now it's undeniable. And I think now is a really interesting moment in NBA history and for modern culture who values cool a whole hell of a lot. How many of our celebrities are celebrities, not because they sing well or act well, but because they look cool? It's kind of the age of the influencer, maybe begun by Kim Kardashian. If you look cool and you don't really have any other discerning talents, you're okay. And I'm looking at the best players of the NBA today and wondering, do we now have to put Jokic at the top of that list? I think if you made a list of the best players of the NBA today, it'd be Giannis, Luka, KD, Steph. You'd probably put Embiid in there because of the MVP, maybe Jason Tatum as well. LeBron's not in that conversation anymore. AD's not really in that conversation. Dame Lillard or Kawhi can't really be in that conversation. Devin Booker, not quite. Those are really good players, but I think the top 3 players of the NBA are some combination of Giannis, Luka, Embiid, and Steph, or Durant, some combo in there for most people. But today, isn't Luka a better player than Joel Embiid? I'd say so. Isn't Jokic a better player than Luka Doncic right now? I mean, he is the centerpiece of a championship team where Luka has now missed the playoffs and kind of shown an emotion where he was melting down in front of his own squad and overwhelmed by the expectations, the pressure, the teammates, what have you, and they've cycled through teammates that maybe works with him, maybe doesn't. Isn't Jokic better than Giannis because Jokic is passing? He's the best passing big man perhaps ever. Isn't he a better all-around player than Giannis? Now, Giannis defensively is a force, and Giannis offensively and on the boards is a force. But where do you then measure passing of Jokic and the overall consistency versus Giannis, who might be better defensively? Maybe it's toss-up. But Jokic is now on that list where I think it's either Giannis or Jokic as the best players of the NBA, both of which born internationally. I think this championship run now eliminated a lot of the bias. Not all of it. Some people are just still going to have the bias because they'll consider him boring. He's not cool. But he's got the hardware. He's got the game. And, the casual basketball fan is not necessarily going to appreciate every angled pass that Jokic throws. He's not going to appreciate that every night there's a 20-point triple-double. But if you watch this postseason, it's hard to make the argument that Jokic is not the best player in the NBA. Because what he did in the postseason, leading the entire NBA in points, rebounds, and assists for the playoffs, first time that's ever happened, nobody else could do that. Maybe LeBron. But LeBron really can't carry the water points-wise, but LeBron could in his heyday. 5 years ago, LeBron could have led the entire postseason in points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, that's the list right now of guys that could do that. One of the things that I love about Jokic is something that, again, is going to hurt him in the mind's eye of a lot of people, and that is he's so unassuming. Last night, the final buzzer sounds. Michael could jump up on the scorer's table and point to the number of fingers of his championships. LeBron would grab a basketball and cradle it. Michael would cry with the trophy, wear the hat, smoke the cigar, revel in this championship, the domination, the ownership of the league. That's what he reveled in. Jokic, the buzzer sounds. He goes right over the Heat to thank them, to congratulate them. Comes in the tunnel. You would have thought he lost the game. Head down, eyes on the floor, no smile. It's like, Jokic, you just won a championship. So unassuming. He is so unimpressed by himself. And because he does not show that outward emotion, Giannis does, Embiid does, Luka does, but because he's so unassuming, he's so unimpressed, he's so matter-of-fact about everything, it gets lost of how great he is. Because if he was out there fired up, yelling, screaming, crying, cradling, exhorting, I think he'd be looked at differently. I really do. I think he'd be looked at differently. But if he's not the best player in the NBA today, after what we just saw, it's either him or Giannis. There's nobody else right now on that list.